Hello. As I said, the next one after the some sources one will be about travel here. The area in red in the map thing is where I'm at. That is the county of Dorset. Dorset is actually quite a nice place. I actually grew up in Sherborne, which is actually I grew up in Sherborne. That's a town, large town. By category, large town. Small large town. I can't really remember. I don't actually remember the category of it, since villages can be tiny and towns can be small, and there's like large towns the size of cities, but not classified as cities. But that's neither here nor there. But anyway, yeah, as I say, on the way here, we're from Sydney to Melbourne. No issues. The only issue with Melbourne is we had no idea where the international thing was for Melbourne. We didn't know procedures for international section of Melbourne. So that was like chaotic. I said much. The worst thing in that one was the fact that what the fuck's that? It seems fine. Issue of that was that a flight was cancelled. We weren't told about the flight cancellation. It was quite dodgy actually. So we had to redirect. We went to Sri Lanka instead at our own expense, not at the expense of not paid by the company itself, because they refused to redirect us to a new plane. Which was the compromise we were willing to go with, but apparently they weren't. Okay, what happened next was we stayed over at Melbourne for a day and a morning. Then we went to the international station again to then travel to Sri Lanka. The Sri Lankan flight was quite nice actually. The food on the Sri Lankan airline was pretty good actually. For airplane food, it was basically quite good, quite good. Service on the Sri Lankan Airlines was good. Yeah, and the thing about Sri Lanka is, funny to see is, I can understand why this unrest in Sri Lanka. The economy is going to garbage. The fact that the US dollar, which is that's the thing that's understand Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has essentially two currencies now: Sri Lankan rupee and US dollar. US dollar is the far more optimal of the two. The US dollar is actually can pay for a lot. For example, rooms. You want to pick a room? Our room was very standard, but it still had everything you would expect from a basic accommodation room: a bed, shower, bathroom, fan, towels. Yeah. There wasn't a TV, but we didn't need it because we were that tired. That was 26 or 23 US dollars. Uh, breakfast was 5 US dollars. Wasn't the biggest breakfast, but that's perfectly fine. Buying food there is not exactly cheap by any means if you're local. But there was enough food to get through. It's actually really well seasoned. And one thing I noticed there is that with tea and coffees, it was powdered milk, not actual milk. Now what's something really interesting. I don't mind powdered milk. I had it before. I had it before, so I'm fine with it. But it also says, and that also shows an interesting indication, is that if real milk isn't used, that then shows that probably places that use real milk are probably the more high-end places. Of course, when I say this, the place I said that we placed there was perfectly fine. It was reasonable. The staff were fine. There's a 2 star, but that's fine. The beds were fine. It was hot, so there was no duvet covers or anything like that. So we just literally lay there in our underwear, sleeping. Yeah. We got some proper peanuts from Sri Lanka. We had some Sri Lankan food, pastries, so on, in the morning after. Then we headed off to the Sri Lankan International Airport, which was small but very, very pretty. I'll say that much. The airport in Sri Lanka is very pretty. I want to see. This is the capital city we're talking about right here, Colombo. And that was beautiful. There was some really good artwork in there. And I saw in a glass container they're wanting to really expand it. I don't know how they're going to expand it though, given the general state of the economy. And some people I spoke to there said something really depressing actually, is that someone with 500,000 US dollars can live like a king, while Sri Lankans almost work for nothing. That says a lot more than anything else. And that's the issue with a lot of the US debt traps. It makes those using the US currency absolutely kings. Those locals who have to deal with it, no. They get shunted. We've seen it before. We will see it again. And that's why I think the whole debt trap discussion needs to be talked about. The US has a history of debt traps. They have the IMF and World Bank. The World Bank and IMF have destroyed so many people's lives, and yet a lot of these people who love to talk about debt trap only really love to talk about Chinese debt trap as if it's evil, as if it's a real thing. Yet some of those people conveniently forget that the IMF and the World Bank is a thing and has destroyed many lives. And in some regards, the EU loans can play a role in that and as well. Just because the EU exists doesn't mean they are exempt from critiques in this. But that's an interesting point. The infrastructure in the capital, at least where I was actually really degrading. The bus is outdated, and frankly, it looks like a really poor part of India. And that was just sad. It's like, I get it. It's a small area. How do you sustain so many people in such a small area with currency and so on, and job possibilities and so on? But that's why you need bulls. Bulls to actually stand up for yourself and not just submit to others. And that's why I can see where the unrest comes from. That's why I say I can see where the unrest comes from. Because the economy and exchange rates is bad for locals. Goods coming in are often now expensive. For example, some stuff for us sells cheap, like costs 100 rupees. But if you're at low age for like a single item, and let's say you're a huge family and like just a simple pastry costs 100 rupees, and you got like 3, 4 kids, that would add up a lot if you were to make constantly need to feed a family. I don't know what the accommodation is or other stuff, but apparently the water bill's really cheap. Electricity, if you have electricity, I heard as well. There's a program there of what I heard about anyway, where the government essentially pays you to make electricity, with the condition that you give back half of the electricity you get through renewable sources back to the national grid. That's an interesting point, and that's fine. But the economy itself, I can definitely see why that's unrest. And yeah, Sri Lanka though, I would like to go back to one day. It's a interesting place. I don't. I was still kind of guilty about using the completely unbalanced US dollar there, but there's really nothing I can do about that. From Sri Lanka, we then went to the UK directly. We went to Heathrow, then we got the tube to Waterloo. Getting to Waterloo, because there's no lifts, because it's an old system, because that's the thing I found out. England, just something you can't travel. You can travel. These things don't change in terms of architecture, I mean, in development. Because things change, but the cities and countrysides don't change. Some places haven't even changed since the 1940s. And some infrastructure is there since 1941, for example. And the tube basically hasn't changed from when it was incepted. That meant there's no elevators in the tube for a while. That meant we had to push around 30 kilograms of goods with us everywhere. That was annoying, but we got there eventually, and we found a lift. I mean, and then we could actually catch taxis because we were only going a short distance. But that's fine. So we stayed at a traveler's place, traveler's hostel, for that one night to catch the 7:10 train to Dorset to Sherborne. Sherborne is how do I describe Sherborne? Sherborne is like a time capsule. It doesn't change. You can go away for 5, 10, 15 years. It won't change. The people won't change. The infrastructure won't change. The only thing that will change is sometimes the businesses. Maybe there might be 1 or 2 new shops in there. Maybe if things collapse, but otherwise, nothing changes. It's a very stagnant place actually, but that's also where it's quite nice because today I actually went walking down to look for gifts for someone because I'm meeting a close friend on the 10th of next month. And with that, I had to scout out what sort of stuff there was because I've been meaning to UK for at least 7 to 10 years, right? Especially in some parts 10 years, some parts 7 years. I forgot the pricing ranges. I found some good gifts for my friend. I won't say what it is just in case he finds this. But they'll be very suitable. Suitable. I want to give him a good English gift selection. A good English local selection of Dorset goods. Because that's probably what should be done anyway. Because if he's going back, it's better I give him something more local and not just continental European. And that's basically it. Is that at the end of the day, just giving him something nice from Dorset would be good. And that'd be a good gift. And it'd be more honest. Because getting really good high quality Dorset gifts, absolutely. I don't see any issue with that at all. So yeah. And that's basically the trip down. The trip down was very chaotic. Took like 5 days. Don't. And yes, for some people, that's longer than expected because we had to. That's a lot of extra steps there, but we got through eventually. We sorted it out. And as people said, it's an adventure that we will never forget. And it was the only reason why we went by Sri Lanka in the first place. Otherwise, we would have went by Abu Dhabi. I still did. We go by Abu Dhabi on the way back anyway, because the Abu Dhabi flight on return is still going ahead. It's just the Abu Dhabi flight to the UK wasn't, and we weren't told about it. But that's annoying. I passed that. We're now here. We spent the past 2 days resting up, getting accustomed again, getting energy back, because for 5 days we essentially had like 4 or 5 hour sleep days. Sometimes less. We went as low as 3 hour sleeps one time because don't ask why that one happened. I just anyway. It was a case of where we had to find somewhere to stay in a very quick period. And that the time we arrived was quite late as is. So then we had to try and sort out accommodation quickly. Not knowing the place all that much. So it was around 1, 2 a.m. in the morning. We found somewhere, and it was around 3, 4 a.m. that we finally got in a place in some form of bed. So that was the worst one. Others where we were planned and where we knew there would be delays, so we planned for it, was far better. We got more sleep. But barely by 1, 2 hours. So I say more sleep, that's like only 1, 2 hour different sleep. It's still far below what is the recommended rate for sleeping, but not much I can do about that. So yeah, that was the spontaneous trip there. I can go into a bit more of history about Dorset and other things if you want me to later. Just say sorry for that. And for now, I'll say goodbye.